I'm Lauren from Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a podcast member of the GonnaGeek network, just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're passionate.
Did you know Magic Mike XXL is actually on the top 25 list of this year's best movie?
They're witty.
He loves him some Katy Perry because she kissed a girl and she liked it.
They're crazy.
I like Nickelback personally, but, I'm the fuddy-duddy who likes episode 1.
And sometimes I leave you wondering, what the f***?
I'm pretty sure that here we were starting the hashtag movement, bring back Slave Ferrell.
Welcome to the GonnaGeek.com podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 138 of the official GonnaGeek.com podcast. My name is Steven Jondrew, and with me today is Stargate Pioneer.
Tonight, you can call me Eric.
We also have with us Chris Ferrell.
Wait, I thought I was supposed to be Eric tonight. Damn it.
And that's right, we are indeed lacking a certain French-Canadian sensation. Unfortunately, again, he does not like us. He cares not to be here this week. He said something about SP and hygiene. Not sure what that's about.
Was it hygiene or Hydra?
Steven, are we recording podcast number 138 or 148?
You know what? They all blend together at this point. So it is 148, but if I said 138, then let's just call 10 of them crap, because there's got to be at least crap 10 of them.
What Steven didn't tell you is we're deleting 10 of the original podcasts. It's going to be a random. Out of the first 40, 10 are going away. So place your bets now.
Yeah.
Can they be the ones that wings are on?
I was going to make the joke, but I withheld because I knew that he would not find it funny. Wing, send your hate mail to Stargate Pioneer.
No. Send your hate mail to JS.
JS does want hate mail.
They live in the same city. That might be like a legal problem here at some point. We don't know what sort of packages he's going to send over to JS.
Yeah,
that's
we'll see.
ominous.
All right, so we're going to dive into our first segment pretty quick here. But first, I want to go ahead and tell everybody that, yes, we are indeed again going live at facebook.com/GonnaGeek. So if you do want to check us out on YouTube, you can do that. We are definitely going to have the edited posted video up there at youtube.com/GonnaGeek. But if you want to see the magic happen, you can check us out Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at geeks.live or facebook.com/GonnaGeek. Little small kind of crappy quality video at there, but who cares? It's our mugs. How clear do you really want them to be?
Super
I've got
clear.
it up on my screen right now. It's not actually that bad.
Did the filter work where I decided to it's an auto SP removal? Did that end up taking place?
Instead of me, I'm seeing a cute 20-year-old girl. So I think it's working.
Perfect. That's
what people want to see.
Yep. That was the intention. And I'm glad to see that worked.
Yeah, when we talked to the rankings and the ratings folks, that was their suggestion.
We have no rankings. Let's be honest. We are, unrankable.
We're rankless.
All right. Let's go ahead and move into the first segment.
Let's do it.
All righty. Alrighty, in the news this week, we're going to start off with Chris Ferrell. And as we know, he has an obsession with two things in life and two things alone. It is Netflix and Disney.
That's probably fair. I can live with that. I expected this to be a lot worse when you said I had an obsession with two things.
I know. I was thinking of a couple of things. Like, let's see. There's your mom. There's other.
Wait, my mom or his mom?
His mom. Steven's mom.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I was just making sure. I was a little worried here. But we'll go back to the story at hand, though. Back in 2012, Netflix had signed a deal with Disney to become kind of the exclusive streaming home for a lot of Disney movies. Well, we didn't know until recently when this would take effect. Netflix's head of content, you might have heard of him by the name of Ted Sarandos, announced that from September onwards, Netflix will become the exclusive U.S. pay TV home for the latest films from Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and Pixar. So that is any film that's been released in a theater from 2016 onwards will be exclusively available on Netflix. Sorry, that means no Star Wars on Netflix America. I know you guys have it in Canada, Steven.
Yep, that is absolutely true.
But here in the States, we'll be getting all of the Disney, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and Pixar stuff from that point on. Will be exclusive to Netflix if you want to stream it somewhere, which is kind of a coup for Netflix if you think about it, because that Marvel back catalog and the ongoing catalog is pretty nice. Pretty nice to have. People are going to be excited to see it. And starting in September, you can go watch the latest Marvel flicks over at Netflix as long as you're a subscriber.
Well, that's good. That is always something that I think people, like companies, have taken a while to really value, is the power of Netflix. So stuff like this just makes me happy.
It took a while for that to happen, and now everyone gets in these wars of, I need to be the one that has the exclusive rights to show this on my streaming site. And for Netflix to have gone back in 2012 and signed this deal, put it together to take place a few years later, that's some pretty forward thinking, and it's probably going to drive some more subscribers to the Netflix side of things, because again, where do people watch a lot of their stuff anymore? It's Netflix, because it's easy. You push a button on your remote control and you've got thousands of movies and TV shows.
I would say that Amazon Prime is also up there because a lot of people, not all people, but a lot of people do have an Amazon Prime membership. So more and more stuff that goes there, you already have the Amazon Prime for the free shipping and all the great shopping. And then, oh, by the way, we have all this great video content over here as well. So I would say that since you're already paying for the free shipping, that Amazon Prime is a great place, but Netflix has been the stalwart, the big boy in terms of all this. They've had their ups and downs when they had the change in the paid structure with the DVDs and everything. I can't remember when that was.
Quickster?
2012. Yeah. 2012,
when they decided to become
2011.
Quickster. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Right. And that was just a debacle at the time, but they've managed to stay ahead of the game. They've lost some things along the way, the big Doctor Who thing and the Top Gear. The show went to Amazon Prime versus anywhere else. So we'll just see how this all settles out eventually. I do say the competitors to Netflix and Amazon Prime that only have like one channel's worth of stuff, like CBS, for instance, or whatever the BBC does or whatever. I'm sorry, they're just not gonna have the horses to do this long term. We've seen it with television channels way back in the day that they tried to make their tent around one thing and then they just absolutely failed. So I'm actually excited to see this Disney Netflix merger. This will solidify Netflix as being one of the big boys on the block. And other than Amazon Prime, I'm just waiting for a third to come along because
there
it
is
just
a third.
Can't be the two. Yeah,
it's called Hulu.
Well, I don't know.
Hulu's where you go for TV, man. It's got your Fox, your ABC, your CBS, everything but NBC out of the big channels is on Hulu.
I have to say that as a Canadian who has limited streaming services and know a lot of people who have explored south of the border through VPN services and things like that in efforts to cable cut, because you couldn't do it in Canada, just relying purely on Canadian services, it wouldn't happen. A lot of them start, of course, they've already got Netflix, and then Hulu's number two. So Hulu is their big target. That I've known multiple people who have done that.
You can't VPN really for Netflix's stuff as easily as my understanding. They catch it a lot better. Hulu, if you want to watch TV, is the place to go. If you want movies, it's Amazon and Netflix. They're much more movie heavy. Hulu's big draw is the fact of if a show aired yesterday in America, I can watch it today on Hulu. It's a day
Right.
behind on television programs. That's its big draw.
So what streaming services do you use really quick? Because like for me, I'm pretty much Netflix and then my local cable provider on demand. That's about it. We don't have Amazon streaming here.
I need to double tap that, Stephen. The Time Warner cable that I have, the on-demand services, if you forget to record something or you record it later or whatever, you can go in and, like I did with Archer this year, I missed like half a season of Archer, and then I was able to go back in the on-demand services and catch up and watch the first, I forget how many it was, like 6, I think, episodes of Archer, and that is available now with your cable service. Now, I don't know if satellite dish does that as well, but I'll throw in, if you actually haven't cut the cord yet, the providers are starting to provide some of the services that cord cutters have left for. Like, I know in the early stages, a lot of people left and they started to torrent and stuff like that. And that's a lot fewer and far between now because there's been prosecutions and stuff like that. And the availability. So like Game of Thrones, if you didn't have HBO or a cable subscription, the only way you could get that was through torrenting. So I know a lot of people did in the early seasons. That's not the case anymore. So I think with the paid content and the privacy protection, I think that's sort of gone away. But in the meantime, cable providers, satellite providers have started offering those services just to try to stay relevant.
How about you, Chris?
If you make it easy for people to legally consume stuff, they're going to do it. That's what you see with Netflix and Hulu and things like that. People aren't torrenting because they can pay their $9.99 a month and watch it. Myself, I'm a Netflixer because Netflix is my constant companion in my kitchen. When I'm cooking, there's generally something on Netflix on TV in the kitchen. And Amazon Prime I do have, and I dabble in the video. I am right now just finishing up season 1 of Alpha House on Amazon Prime, one of their originals, which is pretty fun. And what actually sucked me back into Amazon again is they have a lot of 4K content that you get for no additional price on the Amazon Prime side.
Right. And both Chris and I popped for the Legends of Tomorrow season 1 because we're going to be covering it on Starling Tribune. So we both bought the entire season so we could cover it this summer.
Ooh.
It was on sale for $25 on Amazon, though, which was the cheapest you could find it anywhere to buy a season pass of it. So
yeah,
that was a pretty good deal. And I have dabbled with Hulu in the past. Now that there is a commercial-free plan, I'd be more likely to dabble with Hulu some more because having to pay for the service and still get commercials irked me a little bit. And like SP said, on-demand nowadays is getting better and better. I know with my Comcast cable, I've got like the last 6 to 8 episodes of most television programs. And when I had Dish Network, I had probably the last 2 to 3 of episodes on cable, and then there was the Dish Anywhere feature, which basically recorded everything on prime time for a week at a time. So if I missed something, I just have to go back in. I could pull it up on there and move it over to be saved, or just watch it in that time period. So the traditional services are getting better about making sure you don't miss out on what you want to watch.
Right. Well, I like deals like this, and the more that we have, in my opinion, the better. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next up in the news here, SP likes to talk about big things. Isn't that right?
I like big sticks, and I cannot lie. So what is happening here, this story broke last week, is the world's largest ground telescope. Now, I know in SP Space Symposium, we've been covering a lot of space-based stuff, but this is the world's largest ground telescope, now has a construction contract. It will be called the European Extremely Large Telescope. I was going to say observatory. It is the European Southern Observatory that is putting it together, and it is in the mountains of the Atacama Desert in Chile. And this is incredible. Its aperture is 39 meters, which for the Americans, let me just put this in terms that you can understand, it's 127 feet. That is huge for a dish. It is the biggest, it will be the biggest one on the planet. There was a couple of pictures, and I forget the exact number, but they put cardboard replicas of the different facets of the mirror on this giant field, and there was like 768 of them. This thing is huge. Now, to put it in relative terms to some space telescopes that we talked about, the Hubble Space Telescope has a dish that is 2.4 meters. And the one that I'm really looking forward to, the James Webb Space Telescope, will have a relative dish size of, what is it? It is a bunch of 6.5 meter mirrors, and it is going to be like a 20 meter mirror, I believe, something like that. It's going to be huge for a space-based telescope, but the relative size of ground-based telescopes right now, like 8 meters is about the biggest you can have. There's about 10 or 12 of them around the world, and getting time on them is very, very unique. It's very tough to actually get scientific observation time on them. This is not going to be the only large space ground telescope in the world. There's actually 2 others. They're going to be smaller, but they're still pretty large in comparison. One is the Giant Magellan Telescope in Hawaii that will be 30 meter dish. And then there is Carnegie Observatories is putting together another 30 meter telescope as well. So the fact that this telescope is being constructed, it will start observations in the early 20s, like 2023 timeframe to 2026, somewhere along there. It is going to be huge for science to be able to peer into low light observations in the IR spectrum, because we talked about how the Earth's atmosphere just sucks up a lot of the IR band the last time I talked about a telescope in space, and that is true. So the bigger the dish, the more light that you can collect and the better observations you can actually make. So it'll be exciting to see what sort of science in the late 20s and early 30s that this telescope will bring us.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. And I think that you should probably right now schedule an SP Space Symposium for that year. Get it on the books. Get it on the books.
Yeah, let's all go to Chile and just have one in person down there at the observatory.
I like it. Why not? Why not?
Now, of note, I have my favorite. You asked me about my favorite space telescope last time we talked about this. I'm going to talk about my favorite ground space telescope or ground telescope. It's actually on the top of Mount Evans in Colorado, and it is the Womble Observatory, and it's owned by Denver University, and it's literally the highest operating telescope in the West at 14,148 feet. I had the opportunity to tour that when it was being constructed in the mid-90s, and it was high up. They could only have like a couple of months of construction time every year, so it took a few years to put this thing together, and it's got a relatively small dish in it. It's like a 2.6 meter dish or something like that in it, but it being up so high, then it has less atmosphere to go through, and it's fun. So if you have a chance to go to any observatory, I know Maui's got one. We talked about the great ones down in Chile. Colorado's got one. Just go find one and go up, and if they allow touring during the daytime, go ahead and do that. But if you can see one operating at night, it is amazing. It will just inspire you to science and discover the secrets of the universe.
I love telescopes. Like, I have a balcony that looks out to my neighbors. Oh, wait, sorry, I'll stop here.
Yeah, this went down a dark path already, didn't it?
So you're talking about the Friends' use of telescopes.
Of course. Is there any others? That's what I always thought SP Space Symposium was about. I thought that it was about peeking in on ex-girlfriends.
Oh, dear.
You know, I think it's more along the lines of scientific discovery. Like maybe if there's another force in the universe other than the 4 main ones that we know.
Oh, I see what you did there. You did there. That's right. And in our final piece of news, I am talking something that is not tech. No, it is not traditional geekery. It is a possible 5th force of nature. Now, I'm not the sharpest tool in this chat. I can admit that. I've got a whole chat room that will support that statement. And I found this extremely interesting because, as we all know, there are 4 fundamental forces of nature, which are gravity, electromagnetism. Wow, see, there you go. And then the weak and strong forces between atoms. Now, why do we think that there was a fifth force of nature? Well, what happened was there was a certain Hungarian Academy of Sciences team that published an interesting and somewhat provocative paper. It was last year on what they speculated to be a new force of nature. They had done some tests, and just something that was undescribable came out, and they could not figure out exactly what caused it. So, as we know, nobody ever believes Hungarians. Isn't that right, SP?
No, not at all. This thing was covered up underneath 6 feet of dirt and buried and left to just rot.
So the University of California, because they do assume that they are better than everybody, decided to give it a closer look. And guess what? They found nothing wrong with the research that the Hungarian team did. And in this research, what they did was they ended up firing protons at a thin strip of lithium. And as it absorbed the protons, it ended up morphing into an unstable version of beryllium. That ended up decaying further, and that spewed out pairs of electrons and positrons. And when the protons smashed against the lithium at a precise angle of 140 degrees, that's right, 140 degrees, more electrons and positrons poured out than they had anticipated. I love stuff like this because it's just like we live in a society in a world where you have to be able to explain everything, right? Like that is such the nature of where we are going in a lot of ways, and I won't touch on a certain thing which starts all sorts of arguments, but we are a very, very scientific world these days. And, you know, I don't know what pushed us that way, where everybody's willing to analyze and think about everything. And I love the fact that this is coming to light right now, that perhaps there is a fifth force of nature that we don't know about. Now, SP, I know that you like to disagree with big scientists. What do you think?
I don't like to disagree. I like to read what they're looking into and seeing what the possibilities for the future is. Even Stephen Hawking had to backtrack a couple years ago on a black hole argument that he'd been having for decades. And so you question and you try to observe and you try to come up with explanations of why things are or why things aren't, and you move on with that. This additional force has been talked about for quite some time. We talked about dark matter. We talked about dark energy. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could be involved with the universe that we just don't know. And, you know, how small of a portion of matter do we really go down to? And that's what the big super colliders are doing. We're trying to observe dark energy through literally mines that have miles down into bedrock, and we're trying to slow down these fast moving evasive particles just to prove that they exist. So we don't know everything about the universe. I don't think we'll ever know everything there is to know about the universe, but knowing more about how the universe works could help advance human society one day. Now, does this mean like we're moving towards a singularity event or whatever, where humans become more like cyborgs or integrated with technology? Well, maybe that's part of it. Maybe that means that we can go somewhere else, because eventually this solar system will die billions of years from now, but it will die. So is humanity really meant to last that long? These are all discussions and scientific observations about evolution and stuff like that we need to explore as a race, because we're going there eventually, you know, wherever we end up. So let's figure out where we're going instead of not knowing where we're going and having to react.
We need to know about that red matter. That's the number one.
That, you know, I was thinking of that. The red matter from Star Trek.
What they just found here, this is midi-chlorians. That's what they found.
We finally discovered the midi-chlorians.
Oh, God.
We found them. Not even George Lucas knew where they were, but we found them.
I thought they were in your backyard with Spock.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, anyways, I just wanted to share that because, like I said, stuff like that tickles me in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, phrasing?
You got the goosebumps going.
All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap up the news and go to our next segment. You know, SP, often when I get feedback as network owner about Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., I am regularly told about how much you are kept in check by the two lovely ladies on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., Haley and Lauren.
I am just there, the monkey flipping the switches. They're the real talent of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Absolutely. And I thought that we could use a little bit of that talent on GonnaGeek. Would you agree with that?
Any talent to bring in is better than what we've got. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're a bunch of hacks.
We are indeed. But no, I am pleased to say that for this segment, we do have the one and only Lauren from Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. joining us. Lauren, thank you very much for coming in and popping in today on fairly short notice after you shared some certain events.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
And I do want to say that, you know, I do sincerely enjoy what you do on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., so great job with that.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Lauren, you are also one of the most active con goers on the GonnaGeek network. I know we regularly get updates from you, and this past weekend, you ended up going to a certain one and had a bit of an experience that you thought you could share a bit of the experiences that you've heard about this convention, and then also maybe some ways that people can deal with this type of convention going forward. Isn't that right?
Yeah. So I've been either working at or attending conventions since I was 18, which I thought made me a late bloomer. But then I started talking to a bunch of people that I'm friends with who still haven't been to convention. So I'm like, oh, no, I'm not. Okay. And I started feeling, you know, a little bit more, I guess, normal, which is kind of weird, but okay. So one thing that I'm always going on about how wonderful conventions are and how you can meet people and you can buy fun things, you can experience fun things, but there's also kind of a dark side to that. Sometimes conventions don't go as planned for whatever reason. And this weekend, the one that I was covering for the network made it into a lot of the geek news for the wrong reasons. If you Google Space City Comic Con right now, you'll see reports of police being called, people being having paid thousands of dollars for things that did not happen, people leaving the convention early, guests leaving the convention early, art theft, that sort of thing. And I mean, it's not common, but it happens. This is just kind of the first time it's happened this massively at a convention that I've been to.
So this was, you said, now I'm trying to think exactly, Space City Comic Con, is that correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Houston, where I live, has a bunch of conventions year round. The two big ones are, well, there's a few. There's a bunch of anime conventions. The two that I regularly attend are Space City Comic Con and Comic Palooza, which is in about a little less than 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this one had some problems.
Okay, now I understand there was a big draw, a certain cast of a TV show that was the big name this year at Space City Comic Con. Is that correct? Or Comic Convention, I believe, is the full name.
Yeah,
right?
That is correct. It's the Sons of Anarchy reunion. And it's, you know, normally you get a couple of people from a show and it's real nice. But then this one had the majority of the main cast from Sons of Anarchy, which I love. And it was just kind of a nice bonus. I was like, oh, I'm going to be covering, you know, Doctor Who and Game of Thrones and hopefully some comic stuff while I'm there. it'll be nice if I get to, drop in and see one of these panels, which didn't happen because of various people not being paid and people not being told what time panels were, and mostly people not being paid. And I found out that this was actually the cause for the lack of audio quality in the things that I did record, because some of the people who weren't being paid were the AV people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that makes it tough then.
Yeah, the audio equipment did not get hooked up.
Now, in fairness, before we go any further, Lauren, you've been going to this con for several years, right?
Yes. And it's had its problems kind of on and off. It's kind of the notorious one, but it's kind of never done this spectacularly.
Right. So I read reports, like you said, of the roadies, basically the people running the AV, just up and up leaving because they were supposed to be paid in advance. I saw that just for lack of communication, a lot of the volunteers just wandered off and left because nobody was communicating with them to do anything. And the majority of the workers, quote unquote, of the con, according to the reports that I read. And you can't blame them for walking out, because if they're not being told what to do, they're not going to be able to do it. And apparently the one co-owner of the convention said that he would be right out when people started to have problems, and then went into the information desk, and he never actually showed up for whatever reason. I have no idea why.
One of the co-owners is actually was actually forced out over the weekend because of this, and had to be escorted out. But I will say that whenever you have something like this at a convention, usually having worked conventions, the vast majority of the time, the problem is lack of communication. Just because conventions are really, really stressful on the people who run them. I used to do like the writer's workshop, the guest barbecue, the costume contest, just all this sort of stuff for a small convention. And that was enough to make me lose sleep for about a month. And so I can only imagine, a big convention like this having to wrangle, just, 100 times more the budget and the people and everything else, what the stress there must be. So it's kind of the never attribute to malice, where in this case, lack of communication is the problem. But then there are cases where it is, just outright malice. There was this one really infamous Lord of the Rings convention back in the early 2000s, Tent Moot, where the two people actually did just take everyone's money and run. And it happens. That one is like the really rare one. Mostly it's, for whatever reason, people don't, they just kind of get in over their heads. Like there was another convention just a couple of years ago, DashCon. It was supposed to be the Tumblr convention, and they really overstretched. That's the one. If you've ever heard, the meme, it's going to be another hour in the ball pit. You get another hour in the ball pit, that sort of thing. This convention tried to make up for the lack of amenities and stuff with an extra hour in a ball pit that they had set up. Yeah,
that's what I want.
Wow.
Yeah, it's again, it's one of those infamous fandom stories now.
That's insane.
It was. Wow. It's still. I mean, people were talking about this convention, and they're like, "All we're missing here is a ball pit." But
so all wasn't lost in this particular case. I mean, it was a management fiasco from everything that I read, but to their credit, the majority of the Sons of Anarchy cast actually stayed around, and they were available to fans. It was all messed up.
Even when I was there on Friday, I left really late because I had gone with some friends who were vendors at the show. And when I was there, the room was closing. And there were still people, Mark Boone, Charlie Hunnam, Sam Jones, who plays the Flash Gordon, from the 1970s movie. He was there. And they were all there talking with fans, signing, just very nice, very personable. Sometimes you will encounter convention guests who were really rude. But no, from what I heard, all of the guests this convention were incredibly nice. Brent Spiner was letting people play with his Emmy, which is not a euphemism. There was actually an Emmy sitting.
Brent Spiner is so fun at all these cons, though.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, from what I hear, is really the bad experiences were mostly the people who paid for the Sons of Anarchy experience. Like, I was planning to, just go to that panel and maybe record it, see if anybody, here at the network wanted to use it for something. But it didn't happen, and it ended up, they delayed it for 2.5 hours and then canceled it because, again, people weren't being paid.
Now I heard that I heard that like even if you prepaid for was it photos or signatures, that then was it both?
There was if I remember right, there was some sort of disagreement between the company that sold the VIP experience stuff and the actual management, and they were told not to take the VIP like slips. And some of the cast members, Ron Perlman, from what I heard, just decided, you know what, I'm here, I'll do this for free.
Oh, nice.
Just kind of ate the cost and did that. A bunch of the others, they were told to take cash, but they kind of cut their rates in half. And Charlie Hunnam, his management told him, look, you can't do this, you can't do the panel since they're not paying you. And then he left early. I don't think he was there on Sunday at all.
So you mentioned that there was some artist theft. Now, what exactly does that mean?
Okay, it was so interesting because I was actually talking, the vendors that I went with, they are artists. It's a husband and wife team. If you go to geekazoid.com, the wife sells like vinyl decals, phone stuff. If you've ever seen, sometimes I haven't done it recently because I cut my hair short, but like headbands, like I have a Shield headband and things like that. She's where I got them from. And the husband does paintings. So, they had a booth set up and they do conventions all over. And we were talking about just random convention stuff. And they mentioned that right now there's this big discussion about, it's called splatter art. And what it is,
I know exactly the guy you're going to be talking about.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. There's what you do is you get a picture and you run a Photoshop filter over it so that it looks like it's just been splattered. And somebody had been eliminated from the con because somebody had complained about her. And I don't remember who this artist was. But then later on in the weekend, I was checking Twitter and I saw somebody retweet like, hey, this person is selling your stolen art. And I looked at it's Space City Comic Con, and it's splatter art. And the way that this guy who's been blacklisted from several conventions had gotten around it was he had given it to a professional cosplayer to sell.
To Las Vegas Spock.
Yeah, Spock Vegas.
Spock Vegas, yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those we were talking about. It's one of those really questionable areas, and the way that I've seen a lot of people who do this justify it is say like, okay, well, I'm taking this art and I'm transforming it, so now it's my art. But people who do that sort of transformative art, they're usually like, okay, look, I ask the original artist before I do this, or I take my own art and then do this. So this kind of just lifting wholesale from either other artists or I think some of the stuff that he'd done was like promotional images from video games and things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of Halo and Legend of Zelda and stuff like that. I've seen him before at cons. I've seen a few folks that do this, to be clear.
Yeah, it's more and more common, really.
But it wasn't being put in check by the management of the con.
This guy was not kicked out. Somebody asked them about it, and they said, well, it's not him that's doing it. It's this guy here, and we checked, and he's okay.
So they have been kicking out a lot of the splatter artist stuff from other cons. Bleeding Cool had a couple articles up about it this week, and I think one was from Space City Comic Con. I think there was something even from MegaCon this weekend, too. And Bleeding Cool has been very quick to point out all of these guys that are stealing art and profiting off of it.
Yeah, but this is nothing new, right? Like, it wasn't splatter art, but it was, 4 or 5 years ago that we had the big Rob Granito fiasco,
yes.
right?
Oh, man, I almost forgot about that name.
Yeah, and that was such a big thing. And I remember the reason that this artist that did a similar sort of thing got so exiled was because eventually some big name comic book artists had enough. I think it was a writer and a comic book artist came up to his booth and they went, "No, this is BS."
Wasn't it like Fred Van Lente and?
Don't remember.
I want to say there was something that it was like the most right-wing guy and the most left-wing guy at Marvel both like teamed up and went against somebody, and I want to say it was this case. Yeah. And I want to say it was like Fred Van Lente and I forget who else.
I really don't remember.
Fred Van Lente was there this weekend and I didn't get to see him, so that was disappointing.
The sad thing is this is something that happens more often than not. I mean, it happened a few years ago for some of the East Coast cons here with a guy named Nate Steeman who was going and stealing a bunch of art from folks, and I'd bought some of it because I liked it, and then afterwards like, I don't want any of this stuff. I feel bad that I gave this guy money for giving me someone else's work, and I went and found some of those artists and bought some of their work online then to try and make myself feel a little better about it. It's part of the reason why Marvel/Disney kind of threatens once in a while to be like, yeah, we don't want you guys doing anything with our characters anymore.
Yeah, art theft is a really common thing in the art scene. And I think conventions, because, people sell it, art theft in like, say, DeviantArt or Tumblr or any of those other art communities, it's mostly noticed by other artists. So it's not like... It's kind of an inside the house thing. And here at conventions, because I think people take advantage of the fact that it's people who aren't as familiar with these, recognizable pieces. So really, it's not until somebody's fans show up, take a picture and be like, hey, this is your piece, that they get called out on it. And I think that's why art thieves kind of seem to just keep showing up at conventions and doing this sort of thing. They kind of rely on that lack of knowledge.
Right. Okay, so like, let's say that I do go to a convention and I find myself in a situation like this. How do you, as the resident con expert of the GonnaGeek Network, suggest I make the best of the situation?
Okay, well, the first thing first, please do not yell death threats at the con workers. This happened this weekend.
What?
Please don't do that. Just the basic human decency. They are probably every bit as stressed and terrified as you. Just kind of remember that, keep that in mind. You can call somebody, rant, scream, whatever you want, but just please don't take it out on the workers unless they're being horrible to you, in which case complain to somebody higher power than them.
Should I take a pencil and poke them in the eye?
Do not poke them in the eye.
No, do not do that.
Do not pull a pencil stabbing Comic-Con.
Stabbing is never the right answer, SP. You don't stab.
that was an homage to San Diego Comic-Con, I believe, in 2010. And
that guy got stabbed in the face with a pencil.
Yeah.
Guy got stabbed wasn't a worker, though, I don't think.
No, that's true.
No.
It was a con guard.
Now I want to ask you, I know a lot of things are booked around conventions when they happen, but like, let's say that you're at the convention with a bunch of people. What's the likelihood, if it's that bad, of you being able to just get together with your friends, just say, let's just do something else this weekend? Is that even a possibility, or is everything just shut down?
Yes. No, that is a definite possibility. Most conventions are held in big cities with other stuff to do. One convention that I really like going to is Gen Con in Indianapolis. And there is so much stuff to do there. There's, food places to go. There's museums. There's even around the convention center, because of the convention, there's food trucks. There's people watching. You can hang around the convention and not go inside. If it's a bust, just get some friends and go do something else. I mean, if you're not having fun, you don't have to stay there if it's making you miserable. Here in Houston, again, museums, just find, go on Yelp and find out, hey, what's good here?
Right.
It's no fun being stuck somewhere and feeling obligated to go because you have paid money for this. Talk about trying to get a refund, go to the place, ask about getting a refund. If they don't give you a refund, like right now, there's been some issues where people are trying to get refunds and either not getting them or only getting back like a third to a half. It is worth making complaints to like the Better Business Bureau, or maybe getting together. Right now, there's a Facebook group going on for the people who had the VIP tickets for Sons of Anarchy. I don't know I think they might be talking about like a class action lawsuit or something. I don't know if they don't get their money back within an allotted time frame that they were promised.
Wow.
No, I'm talking, it was thousands of dollars.
Right. Here's my thoughts on that, is that I know that there was a lot of money spent, but things like this, and I've seen it in different areas as well, not just the comic conventions. There's a lot of rumors on various different conventions and why they aren't being held anymore. Usually poor management, poor money management. This could end Space City Comic Con. It could, unless they get investors to come in to take some of the money to pay some of these people the money that they were spent. Who knows where the money went at this point in time? We won't know, and we might not really ever know. But so San Diego Space City Comic Con might become insolvent, which means you're going to get what you get just like any other bankruptcy. So there's that. And then there's the other flip side of it, which they might have some cash reserves. If they do, you might get paid. But either way, I don't know if Space City Comic Con will really legitimately happen anymore, because once it goes into litigation, it is very...
Adding to that, it's already under litigation. There was a lawsuit against it by the not the city council, but it was a trademark thing, because Space City is legally owned by like the city bureau or something like that.
Interesting. Oh no.
Yeah. Again, it's tangled web.
So to wrap it up, then, would you agree that if Space City Comic Convention, because I'm not going to say Comic Con because I know that there's all sorts of trademark issues with that too. If Space City Comic Convention is your convention, do you think it would be worth maybe exploring some others nearby? Like, what do you think?
I would say it's always worth exploring other conventions nearby. With this particular convention, because the problem seems to be one particular person who was constantly mismanaging things, it's really just going to be worth keeping an eye on sort of the legal situation and everything like that, to see what happens with the convention if it comes back, what it comes back as, and who is in charge. And it'll be interesting to see if it comes back next year, and at what scale. I think it might kind of be an advantage for the con to maybe try a little smaller, try not to overreach as much.
Right. Yeah, that probably would be pretty beneficial. And I think when you go and you sell somebody an advanced service of anything, and then you can't deliver on that advanced service, it takes a lot to make up that goodwill.
It really does. But again, for a lot of people, this was their first con because they wanted to see Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
And I really don't want those people to just give up on conventions altogether, because like I said, this is a rare occurrence. Most times, I mean, yes, conventions always come with mishaps because they're huge events with many moving parts. But it's one of those things where the benefits just really, in my mind, outshine the little mishaps. And in a lot of cases, it just kind of adds to the whole story afterwards. Especially when I'm not the one in charge of them anymore. And that always makes me happy. Just every year since I've stopped working AggieCon, I mean, I always have this little, I don't have to stay up for a week straight and figure all this stuff out. But no, working conventions is great. Going to conventions is great. You shouldn't let the fear of an event like this happening scare you off of them. You should, however, always, and this goes no matter what, always be on the lookout for stuff that sounds too good to be true. And I mean, just buyer beware, really, just like anything in life. Don't let this scare you off of conventions. They're fantastic.
plenty of other conventions out there to go to. And I would just, if you're unfamiliar, if it's your first time, probably don't want to plunk down thousands of dollars in something like this. And just like you said, buyer beware, and just try to go have a good time and have a plan B.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Well, thank you very much for coming on here today, Lauren. And before you go, I would like to give you a moment to plug all of the ways that people can find you, and feel free to take whatever shots at SP you want.
Ooh, nice.
Well, I'm mostly on Twitter at Sithwitch. And let's see, I'm on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. with SP. I'm a voice on Strange and Unusual Productions.
Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Long Box Edition?
Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Long Box Edition, yes, which I need to record tonight or tomorrow. And let's see, other than that, I'm going to be covering Comic Palooza pretty soon. And fingers crossed that we get some good interviews out of that. Oh, and I'm actually going to be on a couple of panels at Comic Palooza this year.
Ooh,
so
very nice.
Yes. I'm going to be just trying to steer the Strange and Unusual panels on audio plays. And I just found out yesterday I've been invited to be on the official Comic Palooza podcast panel. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Very nice. Awesome.
Wow.
yes.
Go figure.
Well, thank you very much for coming on here, and we appreciate you sharing the story of the convention, because I had not really heard about it, honestly, until you told me about it, and then I really appreciate you coming on short notice too, because I think that it's something that a lot of people can just kind of learn from this experience and just make the best out of situations if they happen.
Well, thank you for having me. And again, a lot of the things that you will hear in the news were from people who are very angry. Mm-hmm. And, you know, a lot of stories grow in the telling. But this one was a pretty interesting situation. I spent, honestly, I did spend a big chunk of the weekend at home sick.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But talking with people who were actually working the convention after and finding out some of the information, I was like, oh, okay, that's what happened. Which really honestly did line up with a lot of the news.
When Lauren goes down, the whole con goes down. Well, thank you very much, Lauren. We appreciate it. And hopefully you don't bring down any other cons anytime soon.
I will do my best.
Well, before you do go, I just want to remind everybody that we are indeed part of the GonnaGeek network. And one of those shows that Lauren did indeed mention, Strange and Unusual Productions, is part of the GonnaGeek network. And in Dark Files episode 6, Slide, Alan Grisby has the recording of someone looking for something, a slide, based on actual events. Check that out at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. This week, we went and hit up the Geek Back. That's right, we took your feedback this week, and we asked a very interesting question. We asked, post your favorite Captain America Hydra meme below. Go, #GeekBack, #GonnaGeek. Now, before we get into that, I will absolutely remind you what this is all about. That last week, there was, just after we ended up recording the podcast, because all the good news comes after we record the podcast, ended up being announced that in the Captain America #1, there would be a mind-blowing change that apparently, spoiler alert, 10 seconds, Captain America has always been Hydra. So yeah, that's gonna be retconned. We know that. We know that it's not gonna stick. We know it will never touch the MCU. There's no way it will ever touch the cinematic universe.
I think your definition of 10 seconds and everybody else's definition of 10 seconds is vastly different.
Yeah, whatever. If they don't know by now, then my bad. So, but seriously, it's never, ever going to stick, and it will never make the cinematic universe. There's not a chance of that. So lots of great memes came out. The panel where somebody says something, which you know what, you're gonna get spoiled anyways because it's about to come up on your screen, where Cap does say Hail Hydra has been modified and changed to a variety of characters going against what they believe in, because that's the big point that everybody's making, is that this is so not Captain America. And we asked what your favorite was, so let's just get right to it and see what people did enjoy. Okay, so let's start off with the co-host of Chris Ferrell, Anthony Bachman. Which one do you think Anthony Bachman liked?
Snickers.
He liked this one, which SP, I'll let you go ahead and describe that for the audio listener.
Well, you got a kind of a portly gentleman with a kind of a blondish sort of long hair with sunglasses. And it's basically a wrestling.
It's Dusty Rhodes.
I didn't know who it was, not gonna lie, but so it's Dusty Rhodes, and the meme text says, when Captain America turns heel before John, I can never say his last name. How do you say it? Cena?
Cena. You gotta say it like the announcer.
Okay. And you read the last line then.
That's hard times, daddy.
Yeah. So that is Mr. Bachman's favorite. And then we also had another response, which was from Scott McCall, and he said that this one was his favorite. And who is this, Chris?
I forget the kid's name from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang?
I believe so.
And he's saying, I killed the Air Nation.
Oh.
Yeah. So some of you might get that, some of you might not get that. And of course, we're going to share our personal favorites, and we'll go ahead and start off with SP's favorite. And SP, I'll let you do the honor of describing this one.
Well, it's a two framed picture, and then the top of the picture, it is Captain America saying Hail Hydra direct from the script. And on the bottom, it is our favorite Nick Fury from the MCU. That's Samuel L. Jackson with his eye patch. And it says, I recognize Marvel has made a decision, but given that it's a stupid ass decision, I've elected to ignore it. And that's exactly what I have done. I have elected to ignore it. I haven't bought the comic, and I'm just not going to get into this one. Sorry, guys.
I think that's great. And come on, Samuel L. Jackson's got to record that at some point. He's the type of guy that totally will.
He's done it all, but like 2 words out of that from the Avengers.
Exactly. I'm sure we can scrounge. I don't know. We can search the Samuel L. Jackson database and put it together, I'm sure.
And do a passport
right now.
All right. So, Chris, let's get to yours here. You said this was your favorite, which was my favorite up until today. It is a 4-panel little retort to this Hail Hydra thing, and go ahead and you describe it, Chris Ferrell.
It is, like Steven said, it is 4 panels. The very first panel is Sam Wilson as Falcon Captain America throwing a Snickers bar saying, hey Cap, have a Snickers. Panel number 2 is the infamous Captain America Hail Hydra scene where they have photoshopped it to him saying why. Third panel is Falcon looking at him going, because you get all Hydra when you get hungry. And the final panel is the 2 of them. Steve has got his hand on Sam's shoulder, and Sam asks better, and Steve goes better. So it's a direct parody of the commercials. It's fantastically well done.
It is. It's really well done. And we will make sure to put all of these in the show notes at geeks.link/148. That's 148 at the end of the show here. My favorite one did indeed come today, which is a no-brainer because this character is the biggest piece of whatever. And for some reason, everybody thinks all of us Canadians like this character. It is Captain Canuck, which is indeed an actual character that I had not ever heard about until I went to the dollar store to buy my son a comic or a coloring book, and it was a Captain Canuck coloring book. I'm like, what the hell is this crap? And then I realized it was an actual real character. So
that's fantastic.
So Captain Canuck, and it's a simple 1 panel, and it says, I'm not sorry. I love it because if it was actually Captain Canuck, a Canadian hero, he would always be saying, "I'm sorry."
They
Ever
can't
see Canadian
keep
hero
the-
or legend?
Yeah, they can't keep the Captain Canuck comic on the shelves at my LCS, by the way. It
Are you
sells out the
serious?
first day. Yeah, I'm serious. They try ordering more and people just keep on buying it. It's just a phenomenon around here, I guess.
That's nuts. It doesn't deserve it, I can tell you that much. Then we had a few honorable mentions, which we'll start with SP's first honorable mention.
Yeah, of course I had to do this. Is Captain America in the same panel? It's the fuller panel with his little prisoner, we'll call him, and not to spoil too much with the gag around his mouth and tied up with, the deep gauge rope around his chest. And Captain America is just saying, "I love Nickelback." And for that, sir, I love Nickelback. Woohoo! We're doing great now. I'm still a Captain America fan because of that.
No one loves Nickelback.
I like it. They got some nice music.
They're Steven's native sons, and he doesn't like them.
I like their song. Their one song. And finally, honorable mention number 2 comes from Chris Ferrell. And Chris, you can close it out here describing it.
Oh, I saw this one and it made me think of our good friend Neil, who sits in the Financial Nerf Center for GonnaGeek. It is from DC Rebirth number 1. It is the panel where Wally West is pulled back into continuity and he is hugging Barry Allen. It is a panel that made both Neil and I tear up. And in the original panel, Barry is saying something to the effect of, "How could I ever forget you?" And in the Photoshop version, he's whispering "Hail Hydra" in Wally's ear.
Love it. Love it. But we would absolutely want to know what you really liked out of the memes, and they're going to keep coming. I think we got a solid 4 weeks ahead of us of great creativity, so please send them our way and tell us what you have to say. You can email podcast@GonnaGeek.com and tell us which is your favorite. Feel free to include it if you want.
And we'll take gifts too. And there was a great gift that we didn't show of Captain America or Chris Evans in
That's true.
Avengers Age of Ultron. When the scene where he's ripping the log in half, he's actually ripping a Captain America #1 comic book in half.
Yeah.
That was awesome to see. So if we can actually show a GIF or link it in the show notes, that'd be great, Stephen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So that is taking us to the end of episode 148. Chris, what do you want to promote today?
I'm resisting the urge to make a bad joke, so I'll go with my traditional thing and promote the GonnaGeek Network. Head on over to GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Check out one of the awesome podcasts we have there. And if you're a podcaster trying to find a network home, go to GonnaGeek.com/join. We'd love to have some new blood here in our crazy family.
Awesome. I'll go next, and I want to go ahead and promote somebody that needs it. These are an up-and-coming artist. You may have heard their one hit before. They are called Nickelback. They need as much help with promotion as we need. So go ahead and just promote them right here. Yeah, I did that. SP, you got anything you want to plug?
Sure, the summer shows are coming, or they're here. The Last Ship premiered, I believe, tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing that and getting on to the summer popcorn shows. These are the less serious shows, but Sci-Fi's having their batch of shows come on in the next month or so. So Killjoys and Dark Matter and stuff like that will be coming on. And 12 Monkeys has been on for a while. So the summer run is in full swing now. So enjoy your favorite summer show.
Awesome. So for episode 148 of the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, want to remind you we are at geeks.live every Monday. And I'm Stephen Jondrew.
And once again, my name is Eric.
And I'm Captain Canuck.
Bye.
Is Captain Canuck the new French-Canadian sensation?
I think that's why he's been away. He's been away fighting crime.
JS got the super soldier formula, which is maple syrup up there.
From everyone here at the GonnaGeek.com podcast, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to podcast@GonnaGeek.com. You can find all of our show history at GonnaGeek.com/official podcast. And while you're there, why not head over and check out all of the geeky podcasts on the GonnaGeek Network. The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next week.